If you're trying to figure out how to auto launch a flow when a record page is opened, then this tutorial is for you. In this tutorial, we're going to walk through launching a screen flow that's hidden on the page, if you will. This screen flow is going to create a record. The use case for this project was one of two. The first one is the customer or the client wanted to see all users who had opened a particular record. Second use case is that the client wanted to see the last user that had opened the record. In this tutorial, we're going to be using this loads object, which is a managed package object with Revenova TMS. We have created a custom object called load activities, and then a flow that you can't see. It's actually placed in this blank space here. Let's get started. First thing that I did was create a custom object. So by clicking on custom object from setup, you will type in the custom object's name, a description. I've already created the custom object, so we're going to go into the load activity custom object. You'll see, like I said, I named the object load activity. The description is used to log user activity when the load record is opened. I only created 2 custom fields on this object. We may need some later. I'm creating the first iteration of this. So I created the load lookup field. We're going to insert that ID when we launch the flow. And then I created a user field. Lookup, we're going to insert the ID of the user that is launching the flow. Let's go look at the flow. I have created a screen flow. So before I got to this page, I started in setup and then flows, click new flow and select the screen flow, start from scratch, then screen flow. Now we're going to go into the flow that I created and we're going to walk through each one of the elements. The first thing that I did was create the record ID variable. This is very important because we are going to use this once the flow is launched on that load record page. The flow is going to get the ID of that load record and insert where we can use it in our flow. So to create this, you would click on new resource. Resource type is variable. API name, this is very important. It is case sensitive. Lowercase record, capital I, lowercase d for record ID. Select the data type as record, and then select the object where you're going to be placing this flow. If you're placing it on an account, a contact, opportunity lead, what have you, you would select that object. Here I am selecting that managed package object of load, and then I'm going to select available for input. This is going to allow me to place the flow on the page and insert that load record ID so we can use it in the flow. I have already created this, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel or click the X. Next thing I'm going to do is add my create records element. Give it a label. I'm creating the load activity record. The object that I'm creating is the load activity. That's the custom object I created step 1 or phase 1 of this project. Then I'm going to insert the 2 lookup fields that I created on that custom object. The first one is going to be that load lookup field, and I'm going to remove this so we can walk through it. Remember that record ID that we just created? This is where I'm going to be using it. So here's my record ID. That's going to be my load. Click on the load, and then I'm going to go and get or insert the ID. That's going to be the record ID. There we go, ID or record ID. And then the second is going to be the user lookup field. Who is launching this flow or who is looking at the load record? I'm going to click on user and then ID. I am going to save, I'm going to activate, name my flow. Personal preference, I always start my flow names with the object that I'm going to be launching from. And then I like to type in a brief description of the conclusion or the completed task that this flow is going to do. Done with the flow. Now I'm going to go in and add this flow to the load record page. So when I'm on the page, I'm going to drop down and click on edit page from that gear or sprocket, whatever you want to call it. And really I'm adding two things here. One, I am going to add in that flow. I didn't even finish the flow. Let's go back. Sorry. This is very important also. To auto launch this flow, we have to have a screen. Wow, this is a screen flow. Apologies, forgive me. We'll go back here in just a moment. Once I've got in my create records, I am going to add in that screen component. This is going to be a blank screen. So I'm not going to add any of the components on the left. I am going to clear my show header checkbox. I am going to clear my show footer checkbox, and I am going to save, name, and activate my flow. Now, let's go back to the load record page. I have used the flow component from the left. I drag and drop it onto the page. This is going to be on the first page, not hidden in one of my tabs, but I'm going to place it here. As you saw in the beginning of this video, it is a brief break in the page. We're not actually seeing that flow, but I selected the flow that I created, and then this is where we're using that record ID, and I'm passing in the record ID and all the field values so we can use them in our flow. The next thing I did was place a dynamic related list single of my load activities. So that's the custom record that I created. I am showing the load activity name, record ID, or the record name, sorry. I'm showing the user, the person that launched the flow to create the record, and then the created date. Essentially, this is the date and time of when the person opened the load record. I click save on my load page. I am going to go back, and when that flow is launched, we are going to create a load activity record. That way our users can see who may be on this load, and we can also see who over a period of time, look at activities, who is in the loads the most, who is using the records the most, what does their activity look like. I could think of, 15 different reasons how we could use this data. There it is, launching a hidden or invisible flow from a record page to create a record. Or you could also update records. I hope this helps. Questions, comments, feedback, leave it below. Thank you.